There are days whenever the unexpected happens, and that's fine. Thankfully, today had two really cool surprises. I had a pretty trying time trying to stay caught up with some other stuff that I was working on, and I literally crashed and burned. There was no other word for it. I was just completely out of it. I didn't even wake the fuck up today until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And one more reason why I'm glad that I don't work in an office or have a normal day job per se. And I decided like right now, actually, as soon as I get done filming this, I'm going to kind of get my mind collected around kind of a to-do list over the next 2 days to get a bunch of shit rectified and get back on track like I'm supposed to be. There was a lot of stuff that fell by the wayside, and some other personal projects that I had really planned on having started by now aren't. But there were a few things I got done. The first thing I did was I started getting my setup reworked on OBS. OBS is what I would use to go live or just record multimedia aspects in a video setup. It's actually how I did a lot of the playthrough video game runs that I did that are uploaded on my YouTube channel here. But I kept thinking, I'm like, maybe what I can do to kind of facilitate both aspects is I can finally start going live on Twitch. But there's a few things, I did some test runs and I was like, okay, well, this is what my system can actually handle and what it can or can't do. And I've got a massive library of games that I've collected over the last 5 years on Steam that I was like, and some of them I'm actually really looking forward to trying out because they're a little bit on the bizarre side. It's not like any stuff that I normally see other people streaming and going, oh yeah, because most streamers, this isn't making fun of anyone. I understand they're just following trends, but a lot of streamers will go with, this is the game that's hot, this sort of thing. I don't really care either way on that. And I've got a good set of retro games, but I've also got some other ones that I was like, I'm just going to see how this goes, how absurd this really could go. And so it will hopefully turn into something more fun, but something that I can still talk about the artistic aspects and other things involved with those games. So it'll take a little bit more research to do some of them, but in the interim, that's not a bad thing. Catching up to today, though, take a look at this. This is my new foster puppy. He does not have a name, but I'm wanting to call him Vanilla Bean. He is what I think might be a Jack Russell with a little bit of Chihuahua in him. And and most dogs at that age, there's no freaking way he could grow up and be some kind of other crazy mix. I have no idea what he's going to be. So he's just a handful. He's got a lot of energy. He gets along with my Chihuahua just fine. My actual Jack Russell is not real fond of him. And the cats seem to be okay. Otherwise, they don't really know. One of my older cats, Radar, is like, he is unflappable. He doesn't care. He's like, whatever. Yeah, another dog. Great. Fantastic. But it felt like fucking Mutual of Omaha. Because then, there's the outdoor cats I'm taking care of. And there's more than a few people, unfortunately, even in this really bad snowy weather, that have been leaving their cats outside overnight. And so I've been dumping more and more food. Thank goodness. And this is something, I'm telling you this, like, I'm not joking. I've had people sometimes ask me questions about, like, a lot of the stuff I have here. And honestly, sincerely, I've been very, very lucky in my life. My cat finally got out of my chair, so I'm going to sit better in this. Back was fucking hurting. What I mean by that is I'm very much a bargain hunter. I live very frugally. And a lot of the things that are in my studio, a lot of the things that I've gotten over the years, with some small exceptions, have been stuff that either I added it onto like an Amazon list or something, and I was waiting for sales. Could I apply coupons? Could I apply manufacturer rebates? Different things like that. For a little while, I would do reviews, honest reviews, for a discounted price on items. And I didn't last very long because I was very honest with them. I wasn't always glowing positive, like, this thing is actually a piece of shit, but you're going to love it. I never did that stuff. And so I have a few things like that. And sometimes that's not to say that I don't end up paying full price on stuff. A lot of my business expenses are that. Shows, other stuff. I don't get discounts on stuff like that. Occasionally I'll get a free table. It's rare, but that's okay. So, but with a lot of other things, I thankfully live here in the Midwest, where Kansas City in general has a lot of secondhand, vintage, reclaim, salvage, pallet stores that I can go to, and I can get not just things like art supplies and stuff like that, but I can also find things that I need to live. And honestly, there's a lot of people like, oh, I want to move out to California. I want to go to New York. Why? Now, I understand some people can get burnt out here. I do. I'm not here to like knock anyone's dreams or desires to want to go to the coast. That's fine. I visited them, not the West Coast, but the East Coast, yes, and they're fine. But I also look at it, the cost of living is higher. There's a lot more challenges, and sure, there's more opportunities, but there's a lot more competition. And for me, I'm just happier here in the Midwest. A lot of my family is around here, and you know, I couldn't afford half the things if I lived in other places. And I have friends that live out there, and often, you know, I've helped them out by getting them things. Sometimes I've shipped stuff out that I'm like, oh, hey, especially like in the toy collector circuits or art supplies or things. I've helped people over the years with stuff like that because I know that I can find things pretty cheap. And one good example, so an acquaintance of mine had posted this thing on their group. They teach art through, I think, their own gallery. I don't remember everything about it, but they reached out to me directly, and they're like, you wouldn't believe what's happening. I mean, look at this here. Hobby Lobby was selling Copic markers for $1.99. That's insane. If you're not into art, I'm here to tell you. I am here to tell you that is fucking insane. Yeah, on that level. Absolutely on that level. Here's a good example. So this is a Copic sketch pack right here, right? Okay, the price on this, and I've already posted about this on TikTok. I did a whole TikTok about it. I even posted it to Instagram. I'm that goddamn excited about it. This is normally $33.99. Okay, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 markers. Okay, and the markers are these sketch type. These are some of my other older ones. One side, they have the bevel side. On the other side, they have a brush tip side for detail. They are wonderful. I love them. They're refillable, the whole thing. Someday I'll do a video on them. But you can also look here on YouTube and find a lot of other people that review that. Surprisingly, though, there are not a lot of people that tell you about all the details on what they can do and why, in my honest opinion, they are the superior product over a lot of other alcohol-based markers. This set was clearanced out today at $8. $8 and what, 24 cents? Yeah, $8.24. $9 with tax, basically. These damn things normally run me anywhere between $6.99 to $8.99 a marker. And then if you want refills, I'll show you something here. Okay? So old school refills were like that. Okay, they were a little larger, and then I don't think I have any of the other kind. No, I don't. Okay. The newer refills, I'm looking like a fucking moron over here, like abracadabra, like it's gonna fucking show up, but it's not gonna be there. Fuck. The other ones are much smaller and skinnier, and so nonetheless, these by themselves are also like $7. If you go to Blick, they've got really good prices. They give you a small discount from the manufacturer for buying 5 or 6 or more, and then they reduce the prices on not only the markers but other things. And there's a couple different form factors too, some different versions of Copic. The point I'm making here is this is unheard of. And then the goddamn markers, here's one with the sticker still applied on there. Look at that. Do you see that? Oh, I'm holding this bullshit upside down on you guys. Sorry about that. So no, fuck. Look at that. I can't tell on this damn thing. Anyway, it's $1.99. It's probably backwards, right? It's probably backwards because I'm looking at this thing and I'm not sure how it's going to interpolate. $1.99. It was actually cheaper. Some of these I ended up buying doubles because not only do I get an extra marker body and things like that, which is great, and extra parts and all this other stuff, but some of these were colors that they, I think, decommissioned because they're harder to find, and even the refills for them don't exist. Well, it's just cheaper to buy a couple of markers, have some for travel, have some to stay here, things like that, replacements if I lose one. This was absolutely freaking wonderful to find. So between picking up an extremely adorable dog that I am now fostering and that'll be fun. I mean, it is hard to say no, especially when the rescue really needs help. I mean, there were plenty of other dogs there that, you know, and this is just a small number that are held there at that particular shelter. But there was another hallway that's filled with dogs in there, and then other fosters that have already taken some on. Unfortunately, that's an aspect that, because I have a Jack Russell that isn't very friendly, it's very hard to bring other animals in because he's very, and rightfully so. He himself was a rescue. He used to be a breeder dog. He went through hell. And it took a long time for him to really, you know, accept the, hey, these are my toys. This is my house, my bed, you know, that he was okay. And so when somebody new comes in, he's a little interested, but his house is his domain, and I understand that. So anyway, this is really exciting, and I was really happy about that. I'm just going to leave it right here. And so let me see here. Between trying to get stuff set up for Twitch, trying to do all that other stuff, I'm also trying to film a segment for, I'll talk more about that later because I have to get the rest of it done. But basically, I need to film a segment of myself doing some digital art, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to get that done this weekend as well, too. And then there were some other things that had come up that I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy. There was a fellow, and I wasn't familiar with him at first. I think he's a YouTuber, but he came forward, and it's just crazy how AI keeps drifting back into my conversation fold. And he had the audacity to post this. Do you see this? Do you see this? It's right here. It's bullshit. It's he's going to be doing a talk on basically how artists have enjoyed too much prestige, too much affluence. We wield incredible influence and power over all the peons out there, all the great unwashed masses that purchase our stuff. I fucking just got done talking about buying discount markers. For somebody to come along and say that artists in general, have this much prestige and shit like that, it's exactly why I posted online that motherfucker's just mad that he lost at Pictionary. I am always blown away by the amount of people that will often have something to say. I got a comment and I am not going to highlight it on here. I just deleted it. That's one of the reasons I hold comments on a lot of things. I have learned that lesson harshly. And the exact quote on it, that I'm going to paraphrase because I was like, I don't need that negativity. That the whole psyche was kind of fragile at that time. It literally said, these journal entries are fucking stupid. Nobody gives a damn. Who the hell are you anyway? Great. Well, they could have found out who I was because, like an egomaniac, I talk about a lot of my shit a lot. That's fine. It's not that big of a deal. It always hurts, right? I mean, nobody could ever sit there and I take that back. I know people that actually are like so fucking Teflon that like they don't give a shit. They're fucking unstoppable. But even the best people, the people that have the biggest careers, the strongest character, you know, capacity, or just you know, the constitution of a fucking vending machine, mentally and physically, they still get, you remember the shitty comments. I'm gonna remember that for a while. But it also made me want to go, you know what, fuck them. I'm gonna start doing Twitch now. Fuck you, I'm doing more. I don't give a fuck. And I don't know. Haters make me laugh because, I mean, full admitting on this, man, like, when I was probably like right before I turned 30, I was a serious hater. Like, I was just like, fuck, I'm too good for this, fuck that. Actually, a buddy of mine, he used to work with me up in the in the voice studio upstairs. We got into talking. I'm not going to drop his name so that nobody can really attribute this story. It's his to tell, but I love the whole factor of it. I would sometimes go whenever, quite frankly, when I didn't want to fucking work because something was pissing me off at Hallmark, I couldn't stand my boss. And Hallmark is a weird company, or it was at that time, where like there was so much overlay that you could go like, fuck this, I'm out, go walk somewhere. And for the most part, most people really didn't know how to deal with that. I'd just like occasionally be like, well, I'm off to the fucking Leap Lab, I'm gonna go 3D print some action figure or some shit. And you could, as long as you got your work done, no one really gave a fuck. And I didn't get that much work there. And that's because the workflows were real weird. One bottleneck would just make everyone stop for like a week or two, and you're like, I gotta keep my head down. I can't be at my desk. I don't want anyone to know that I'm not actually doing shit. I knew a dude, seriously, this is real talk. I knew a guy that actually we had these big fucking like wardrobe things, and I don't even know why. Like, why would you get more shit just to get binders and folders and like hide your fucking snacks in? That wasn't too bad. But people would bring like changes of clothing and shit like that. I was having like Trinity 3 fucking studio memories and shit. But one of the dudes, because we always had like the way the cubicles were set up, you lived in a little fucking hovel, like hobbits and shit. He had a fucking PlayStation 3, like in the thing, and like a tiny monitor and shit. So when he was taking a break for lunch, he'd fucking open the doors, turn it on, put on some headphones, and play for 30 minutes. And where his fucking cubicle was sat, it's fucking lunchtime. Everyone would go downstairs to the crown room and do other shit. He's just back there like, I thought that was the most inspirational fucking thing I've ever seen. I never had the balls to do that. I also didn't want to bring any of my shit there because I was always scared of something. I lie. Actually, if I can find it, I'll put the photo here on top of this. But somewhere I have photos of my crazy ass booth. I like made custom walls. I left those fuckers at Hallmark. I was so mad. I spent all this time and money making them look like they were kind of like the same patterns and stuff. It was kind of like a cross between some Panzer Dragoon textures, but also the look of Cherno Alpha, one of the giant fucking robots that was in the first Pacific Rim, the Russian one. And I did my walls like that because I fucking hated that beige wall shit. God, I couldn't stand that shit. And so, but I also had a lot of downtime again. So y'all could take projects like, oh, what are you doing? I'm rebuilding my cubicle. I'm adding new shit in. So when I was doing voiceover, I grew pretty close to the engineers that worked up there and really enjoyed talking to them and stuff. But like an asshole, I really don't keep in touch with them like I should now. At some point in time, I gotta fucking hang out. Life is too fucking short. I remember we were talking about, because I visited Hallmark once before I worked there, and I'm talking way back. And sometimes it's weird, like you'll go and you'll see something at some place, and years later, you're like, I didn't know you were there. You know, it's like meeting up at fucking Lollapalooza and seeing each other across the way, and they're like, you look like that fucker I saw at Lollapalooza. That was me. Well, this is a circumstance where we didn't cross paths when we were in high school, because I think he was a little bit younger than me. I don't remember. Well, we didn't even go to the same school or anything else like that. And whenever I came to Hallmark, we were kind of absconded into seeing like the historical stuff and showing us like the glamorous shit that was on floors 7, 8, and 9, I think. And then that was it. But I remember when he said he came, I think he says it was during his emo phase or something like that. And he's like, I'm so much better than this fucking place. Like, I'm not gonna fucking work here. And then later, he came on the same way that I did, which Hallmark had different zones where they would go through like temp work, you were contract. They had different formulations for how you worked for the company, and I don't even begin to understand what the fuck HR or the corporate aspects of that were, because I was never and I even worked full time at one time, and then I went back down to part time, and then I came back up. It was fucking weird. It was a weird ass company to work for. But I do recall that he was saying that he came on as a temp, and he was working in the sound studio. And if I remember right, he was telling me like he didn't even really know, like he knew how to play some instruments and stuff, but he learned how to play piano and everything else like that just because it was expected. It was his job. So he just kind of morphed into this area where he became a sound engineer, started learning Premiere and all this other shit, how to play music, and you know, he got a chance to perform and create music for cards and other, you know, I think television and radio spots, stuff like that. Just crazy. But it was funny because he said, yeah, but I was absolutely that guy. I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going to work here, this corporate shithole or something along that line. Now I think I'm putting words in his mouth, but it was essentially, he had a lot of disgust about ever working there. And I remember thinking that too, whenever I came to visit. I'm like, you know, it's kind of cool, but there's no way I'm ever going to get a job here. And I had my portfolio rejected no less than 7 or 8 times. And the only reason I got in there was because of a dude who I knew from college who was like, hey, I know a guy, we can bring him in as a temp. So never fucking burn the bridges with the people you know. Fuck the corporations, because they don't really keep that many tabs on you unless you do something super fucking stupid like, you know, I don't know, not have pants on when you're sitting at your fucking desk or some shit. But otherwise, there's an amazing amount of shit you can get away with. At some point in time, I'll go back down. I've decided I am definitely going to put this shit up here. I used to do all these weird things. Like, I was always worried because, you know, I'm kind of one of those people pleaser types. I always got freaked out about people's morale, you know, in general, not morals, but morale. And so I always thought, you know, maybe it'd be funny to like just leave little weird Post-it notes, because there'd be things like, and it was more just because I wanted to do stuff just to make people laugh. And for the most part, I think it worked. I never got reported. Nobody got mad until they did. But it took about 2 years for it to happen. I used to do things like, I would print out memes because like nobody ever checked on the printers, but I would print out memes and like, you know, strategically place them around and things like that. You know, like one of the things I did was I took a picture of somebody drinking from a water fountain that had been broken for 3 months, and I kept taping it up to going, the memories, you know, and it's just like somebody actually drinking from it one time, but now those are gone, and like basically like RIP this water fountain. And I remember I got really mad. This is really weird. This is before I found out I was diabetic. Probably the reason I deserve being diabetic for this bullshit. They used to have vending machines there all the time, just to fucking take credit cards, whatever, you know, standard vending machines. And one of them I was obsessed with because it was the only motherfucker that had canned high C fruit punch, like the good shit, like the shit from the 80s in a fucking can. I hate drinking out of bottles. Plastic bottles are the fucking scourge of this earth. But a fucking can, Jesus Christ, I'm on board with that shit. And I think I like budgeted my money back then because, you know, I made good money at that time. I think I always made somewhere between 34 to 42 bucks an hour or something, depending on what the fuck I was doing there. And so bills are fine, other things are fine, student loans fine, fuck everything, you know, didn't give a shit. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna save like, you know, 35 bucks a month for just high C fruit punch. And then it ran out. And the thing that got me was, oh man, there's so much shit, pictures and stuff, because like I was like, no one's gonna believe this shit. There's like, I have video footage, like the fucking hallways were wide enough to drive a Buick down. It was fucking crazy. And so, and you had to, because the place was so fucking big. The deliveries for all of the food and shit, and I am certain it's like this on the Google campus or Disney or Pixar. I'm certain it's like this too. You have these little fucking, they're like, you know, like a transformer and a hover round came together and made this big metal bastard that could carry shit. And I got mad because I was always like, hey, the soda guy, the beverage man, he's around getting drinks out here. And he never brought back my fruit punch. So I started like, you know, the sad Keanu Reeves meme? I would do that, and it would be like, you know, a little can, you know, next to him and everything else like that. And the dude started to fuck with me in a good way, in a friendly way. Because I posted up and I was like, you know, and I don't even remember what I said, but it was something like, you know, Keanu Reeves is sad. Let's bring back some Hawaiian punch so he's not so sad. And I had like another meme that I was going to post up like when it came back. And he was like, I'm sorry, it's out of my control. You're going to have to go and talk to floor, I think 7 about that. They've got the commodities. They got the control of the whole high C fruit punch thing. And it went back and forth for a while. But nobody knew I was doing that until a coworker of mine got smart and was like, that's got to be you. You're the only person that even knows what the fuck a meme is around here and is willing to do that shit. That has the time to do it. And I really enjoyed it because people would laugh about it. It came up in meetings and I'm like, I just wanted to hear it. And I missed that. That was something I really enjoyed for a while there. And I thought about like how sometimes the attitude of where you work, it can definitely be within you. And even through the hard times, it can help carry you through a job and help you feel better about things. And I remember, because I did talk to a lot of people, there was a group of people that used to work there as well too. And this is fucking true. So there's 3 shelves over here that have a massive amount of Legos in them. Okay. Now, most of what I used to collect would be non-IP branded stuff. Is mainly like Lego creation stuff. So my favorite sets were like when they released the Monster Hunters. That was specifically an intellectual property that belonged to Lego. It wasn't tied to like Marvel or Disney or anything. It was just a beautiful bunch of sets. And even those I got on discount, going back to the whole discount thing. But one thing, and I am not ashamed to admit this because it was very weird, sometimes you just have these things that are just thrown out because they are. And I don't understand a lot of things, but I actually have a robot sitting in the other room that is in parts. And it was a remote controlled robot. I had some parts from him And they used to have these recycle bins where they would throw things out, but they didn't really care if you went through them, but they didn't really want you to. So that was always my thing of like, hey, I've always looked in shit because I figure if this is trash, if you were going to throw this away and compact it, hey, no one's going to care if I take this thing. And for the most part, that was true. Well, they used to have these bins that were filled with bubble wrap, filled with paper, filled with old greeting cards that they pulled back from the Hallmark stores and stuff. And they'd also have other ones that were filled with various items that had been used for photo shots, you know, or product images, or they were bought because they needed to spend their budget to quantify that they needed that every year, or they were bought for other reasons, like to do one of the things that every company does, not just Hallmark, is these deep dive things where they're like, I'm going to buy these things, take them apart and see what my competitors are doing or what's the appeal or this sort of thing. And I ended up with 5 in the box Lego sets from Marvel. Many of them were Guardians of the Galaxy, and oh, in that one Star Wars one there, I have a Star Wars one that I think is the Imperial Droid. Yeah, and they're just sets that I've never opened. They're just sitting there. They were just in the recycle bin. And it's amazing to me how if somebody is pretty good about what they do, you can find out things about where you work and stuff like that, and not really work the system, but understand like, hey, I can do these things. In fact, part of the rest of the exterior studio out here, well beyond what you guys haven't seen on video, it's super screwball out there. I ended up, and I'm not even kidding, I went to one of the recycle bins, and this was in front of everyone because there was no fucking way I was carrying this out incognito or anything, and I didn't really do shit like that anyway. But because I always got a paper trail, and I was like, nope, need the receipts. So I have a bunch, and they're stored away, so I can't even do any B-roll footage of them. But they were, you know, the kind of, actually, I have a chunk of it over here. You guys have seen in some earlier shots wherever I'm showing the workbench area, has all my tools on there. Well, when I was rebuilding this part of the studio, I had a small area that I needed to kind of bring out and put that stuff on so I could hang all my stuff. So a pegboard. They had so much pegboard they were throwing out. I don't even know why. One was a black. It had like black wood grain. It was solid black, but it had like a wood grain pattern on it. It was fucking beautiful. They didn't have a lot of it, and it was a little water damaged, but they had, and I shit you not, because I've still got 9 of those sheets and part of one here, and then the rest of them are on the rest of the finished basement areas outside of this studio for another work area. I think when I did the math, because I had to throw everything in the back of my truck, it was the only way to get it home, and that was even fucking crazy. I was like strapping shit down. I'm like, oh God, this is gonna fly out and fucking decapitate somebody. I ended up with, they were all, I think the average size was about 6 foot wide, 6 to 6.5 foot wide. And then they were just a little bit over 8 or 9 foot long, which was a fucking nightmare because I have a short bed truck anyway. And I remember I had to go get a cart, and I'm like carting this shit out, and a buddy of mine helped to get it out to my vehicle, and he took some too, because when he found out, he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I actually got some pegboard. He's like, what, are you crazy? I'm like, yeah, no, but I got permission. And it was all because I knew the custodian people there. I knew a lot of the people that worked in the machine shops, people that others wouldn't even fucking talk to. I used to work late and just shoot the shit, get a soda with them, whatever, you know. Charisma goes a long fucking way. So do manners. And I didn't like that a lot of that stuff was just going to end up in the landfill, because this is exactly where I was going to. You know, you could see the bins, and some of them would say trash, landfill, upcycle, but upcycle just meant it was going to either be used internally or something, and this was specifically in landfill. And so when I saw it, I'm like, and I took one of the buddy I ended up splitting some of this up with, because he was building a shed outside and he wanted it for his shed, and I was like, there is more than enough here. And what I just told you guys about is what I have, and he got just as much. He got, I think, 8 or 9 sheets of it himself, so he was able to put some in his house and in his new shed that he was building. And it's fucking crazy. I've got a bunch out there still that is just waiting for a future project, you know, the chance to finish that up. I didn't pay anything for it. I got hundreds of dollars of it just because. And that is, it's really hard to think, you know, like how nuts that was. And I often think to myself, like, it's a shame that most people have to try and wait for bargains. At least I feel this is the way. This is just because it's my own small myopic view of life. Many of us are sometimes a little reluctant to want to spend extra money or cash on things because there could be sales, there could be discounts, there could be these really cool opportunities that work out that it's like, hey, I'm going to get something out of this and this will work out okay. And sometimes you'll find crazy discounts on things if you're just patient and wait. And this is definitely an example of that. I'll show you guys probably the craziest thing. Let me reach it and grab it over here. So I've talked about this before. This is one hell of a paperweight. This is my Toshiba Satellite Pro laptop. Look at this thick boy. That seriously, that is a fucking, it's like 1.5 inches thick, and it weighs like crazy. I probably have to update the battery on this and get a third-party one. I'm always scared it's going to blow apart on me. So this one, it has a DVD player in it. It ran Windows 95 originally. I updated it to Windows 98, and it rests over here. It used to be a secondary monitor that I would watch movies on. Occasionally, I do that still. What's really crazy is that I got that for free working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. That was another company that the amount of shit that would be left behind in vehicles was insane. I have found some crazy stuff. Over the time that I worked there, I found 2 loaded handguns just left in the trunk. I didn't keep those. No, those we had to turn in because but that was sitting in when I worked there, I found it. I found the bag and I was like, okay, that's weird. And it looked really expensive. I didn't really know much about laptops at that time. I'd always been a desktop kind of user. But I was like, oh, that's really cool. So the whole requirement was they had 30 days, but for things like this, we had to contact people out in 60 days. And I don't know the whole story, but I have some suspicions on where it came from. But the power cord, everything was in there, was in this bag. It was really, really nice. And now that I've looked into it, those Toshiba Satellite Pros must have been very nice computers. It's really crazy. It's got like a 3.5 floppy drive on it. It's got an Ethernet kind of looking thing on the side. It's got a DVD player. It's really pretty robust. Knock on wood, it's going to last and be okay. But for the next few years, because I really like it. I love my Windows 98 machine. When I got it, I remember it was just being patient because I'd been actually looking to try and get a laptop to be able to work on and stuff. And that is the system that I ran my very first Adobe Photoshop 5.5 on. I finally had a computer that I'd be able to run it because I checked the stats and I'm like, holy shit, this is going to eat Photoshop for breakfast. And it did. Oh my God, it was so wonderful. But the thing was, it was just waiting for that, taking that chance, taking that gamble that things were going to work out discount wise or something for me. And this was a circumstance where I came into work one day and my boss was like, hey, so if you want that laptop, it's yours. I don't have a reason for it. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it or anything else like that. And he was like, you did find it. That's kind of one of the things. Now, every single enterprise at that time was very different depending on the manager. Some of those guys, we had one dude that if he found stuff and after 30 or 60 days, the shit ended up on eBay. But this was one where he was like, no, I know you're in school. You're trying art. And he assumed I was. I was like, I'm not in school. But he was like, well, you do art stuff and everything. I'm like, I do. And I'd really been wanting to get into digital art. So my first laptop was free. It was somebody else's. And when I got in there, I remember there was a few things I had to figure out. I had a buddy of mine that worked on computers look at it, and he was like, okay, this is kind of different. And he ended up wiping a bunch of stuff off there, but we found some really strange things. Nothing really vile or anything else, just like strange photos and shit. Very odd. I'll maybe talk about those someday, but they were just weird and not what I expected. I was like, huh. And I was surprised that nobody wanted it back. But it was another circumstance where I lucked out on that, and I always tell myself that, like, I don't have to be, because I'm going to let you guys in on something. And this is so fucking detrimental to even talk like this, because I know somebody's going to be like, well, you said you didn't like it. What I'm about to say is, no, I don't like it, but I fucking need it. I can't stand money. I fucking hate it. Terrible with it. If I ever have a lot of it, I am terrible at saving. I'll do it, but I have to have almost an exorbitant amount that I'm like, I don't know what to do with the rest of this bullshit. And when I do freelance and stuff like that or other stuff, I now, because my freelance is kind of weighing down and gleamed down to a smaller kind of pipeline, now the dollars really matter. And even at a higher rate, which my rate is $50 an hour, it's still hard to kind of make ends meet because the work that I do is far more, far and few between. And then when I get some, that comes in, I'm like, oh, okay, there's a little bit more breathing space, and I try to plan out the next few months. The difficulty at that point in time was that, when I make a lot more money, I just don't always know how to manage it. But I'm always trying to find deals and shit. This has been a weird video. I didn't expect to go into like the deal maker or trying to find shit like that. But yeah, that's so much of my stuff I buy on discount like that. Like, just, I always try and wait for that. And it's one of the reasons why I also like going to, estate sales and vintage stuff and things like that. Not that I really need a lot more. I've been finding myself now more that some of the things I'm weighing down to is a few things here and there, but otherwise, man, there's also a point where I can get burned out. I'm like, I don't really need that much shit. Like, I buy more art supplies, and occasionally I'll buy books or artwork from other people or movies still because I like physical media. But after a while, I start going, I don't really need that much more stuff. But that's a feeling that ebbs and flows as it goes. Anyway, so hope you guys enjoyed the videos of the doggy, Vanilla Bean, and yeah, I don't even know where I was going with the whole thing on waiting for things like that, because I don't know. It seems weird though that like there's the proliferation of that sort of stuff. There was an Amazon distribution, not center, but an Amazon resale place that was just literally, it's big boxes on a pallet, and it's all the returns that Amazon gets. Well, this guy evidently buys them wholesale. Like, I'm talking like dollars on the pallet, and you can go in, and I don't know if it's like, hey, everything in this pallet is $5 or what. I have not yet been there. I kind of don't want to go there because I'll just come back like, I don't know what the fuck freaking happened. I don't know. Oh, so much shit. I'm just terrible about that. But I sometimes wonder, like, not even really wonder. I know that this is an offshoot of our disposable mentality about how things are. And the reason I keep talking about doing a video on the markers was because I wanted to talk about the reusability of them, which I've gone ad nauseum about these things, right? Every part of this is replaceable, from the nibs to the caps to everything. If the body cracks, you can buy a brand new body. They're all refillable with inks. Inks are mixable, all yada, yada, yada. The whole system is set up that way. There's even a fucking airbrush aspect you can do with it. But after those, I became obsessed with other things. The only highlighters that I use are these Stabilo Boss, and these are refillable. And then I have whiteboards out the ass over here for project management and calendar shit. I was like, I don't know why, but one of the biggest stigmas for corporate America was disposable fucking pens and fucking whiteboard markers. Oh my God, I was just like, that shit's gonna be everywhere. And so I found a company called Ozpen, literally out of Australia, that they make, they're too far, I'm not gonna go get them right now. Use the force, Luke. They are metal-bodied, refillable dry erase markers. I got 6, in a set, and then they came with a collector set that was like a nib remover, and then the refill, it's the same thing as this. It's like a bottle that has refills for it. And I've not even touched that other set. Like, it's just amazing, like, how long these things have lasted me. They don't dry out because of the way the cap locks onto the metal aspect of it. They're just fucking wonderful. And I think to myself about that all the time, about, like, I want to keep trying to move forward into this idea that I'm going to pull back on what I'm doing, which transfers over into the stuff I'm creating for my art. I'm more concerned about getting out a good story and a good book than I am about, oh, let me create pins and stickers and all this other shit. That's a personal decision I've made, because I realize as an artist how much shit I'm putting out into the environment. And if it doesn't sell, and I can't even give it away or something, which has happened, then it's going to be thrown away. And at some point, I don't want to keep doing that. I want to have better control over what I'm doing with what I have, because it's important to me. Because the environment and my hit on it are important to me. It matters what I'm doing. So, man, this was a weird one, wasn't it? I kind of went all over the fucking place. I'm definitely in a better mood. I don't even fucking know why though, because I have a shit ton of stuff to do, and probably after I get done with the video, I'm gonna be like back here sitting on the shelf like, oh god, why? I don't know. If you get a chance, I don't normally pimp people out like this, but my good buddy, old friend of mine, Rick Wolf, is somebody who does videos. I'm going to leave the links down below. He doesn't upload to YouTube as much anymore. I think they still put some things on there, but if you can go on Twitch, if you're on Twitch, fucking follow him. He does Rick Gets Wrecked, and he also does Robot Co-op, which if you're into really zany kind of things with puppets and robots and like video game playthroughs and like weird pop culture things, the community is really pretty cool. It can get a little more, even a little zany for me, but not what they're doing, but more just, it's almost like too much. I'm like, holy shit, but it is funny. And I've genuinely laughed my fucking head off on more than a few occasions when I've watched the shows. I also want to preface it by saying this: when you watch it, I want you to understand that when you're watching his productions, they are on a level that fucking Netflix and Hulu and all these other players in this game that are creating media need to sit the fuck up and go, why don't we have that guy on our streaming service? Why is he not making grand fucking visions? And the reason I say that is because the polish, the pursuant factors in there that he does to create that keeps me fucking motivated. It makes me think about resolution and, you know, how I'm doing things and lighting and other shit like that, which I fuck up all the time. But it's something that I can look at and I go, that's really good. And I really want to kind of stay in that lane of thought and keep going with things. And I often will get addicted to watching people work on stuff, you know, just because it feels like I've got, you know, somebody kind of working along with me on things like that. So often after I get done with stuff like this, I'll turn on Twitch or YouTube or something and watch some, either not playthroughs as much, but like I'm addicted to a bunch of computer and 3D printing channels or like railroad building channels and stuff like that. And that's great. And on Twitch, it's just nice to see the just chat things. So not that I'm trying to push Twitch real hard. I'm just saying follow Rick because he's got 2 really good channels of shit. This week he only did two episode aspects on there on streaming. And I think next week he's going back to 3 or 4 nights a week doing that stuff. And it's not, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I know that sometimes people can be like, I'll check it out or anything, but I sincerely mean it. Check it out. It's really cool. And with that, thanks for watching, guys. I really, really fucking appreciate this so much. The people that do, even for the negative that I got, you know, on that one comment. Thank God it's only one fucking comment. I say that now, and tomorrow I'm gonna be like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck, man? Why would you tell me that? I'm so sorry. You know, it's okay. I used to hear much worse shit when I still did security for bars. So, yeah, it's going to be what it's going to be. All right, guys. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you in the next journal entry. And, see, I just lost where the fuck I was going with that. Oh, sorry. Woo. Yeah, I'm really gonna have to think about this now for a second because I was like on a roll and then I went somewhere with that. I went out into left field, fucking went off. Okay, it's gonna come back to me here in a moment. I know it will. And you guys are probably gonna rewind and go, what the fuck was he talking about?